Hi, welcome to the Please Don't Make Pleas lesson, brought to you by Empower Learning Center through Barnett's Buzzing Blog, which can be found at edublogs.com. This was a lesson that I created after working with a student on the word please when the student was wondering why there was an E on please when the EA already says E. There are 4 essential questions when studying words through structure word inquiry. The first thing we need to do is establish what does this word mean, so we know we're talking about the same word. The next couple of items we do, and can be in any order, is how is the word built, using which morphemes, and what are the relatives of the morphemes, making sure that we are establishing evidence for the use of the morphemes, as well as what are other words that are using a different spelling, but they're connected to the same base. And finally, the last thing we really take a look at are what are the graphemes in this word that matter in pronunciation. Perhaps there are marker letters in this word that don't have a phoneme attached to them. So taking a look at please, what does it mean? According to the Oxford English Online Dictionary, there are several uses of this word as a verb and several as an adverb. Below, I've just written the first definitions in each. As a verb, it's cause to feel happy and satisfied. As an adverb, it's used in polite requests for questions. Maybe it's heard in phrases, pleased as punch or pleased to meet you. Making certain that your student and you are using the same definition, the same word, understanding it in the same way. We want to take a look at how is this word built. Structurally, this word cannot be further analyzed. It is a free base element. In the affixes can be affixed to create additional words in this family, but they're not necessary for it to be a word. If it were necessary, then it would be a bound base element. So you can analyze other parts like the graphemes to this word, but we cannot find other morphemes to take off. You don't end up with PLEA, with plea, and SE as a morpheme, as a suffix, because SE is not a suffix. We'd have to find other words that use SE as a suffix to call it a suffix in this word. We want to know what the relatives are. What are the connections? There are so many relatives. Let me count the ways. First, let's look at the most obvious concrete relatives by affixing prefixes and suffixes to the base. Several are represented by this word several are represented by word sums, but there are many more represented in the matrix. So here are some of your word sums. PLEASE plus ED. It is rewritten as PLEAS, replace the E with ED. Pleasing is written as PLEASE plus ING, rewritten as PLEAS, replace the E with ING. Displeased is DIS plus PLEASE plus ED, rewritten as DIS, PLEAS, replace the E with ED. Pleasure, PLEASE plus URE, is rewritten as PLEAS, replace the E with URE. And finally, pleasant, PLEASE plus ANT, is rewritten as PLEAS, replace the E with ANT. We will learn about the replacing of the E in the next slide. Word sums and the spelling convention of replacing an E. Spelling convention says that replace a final single non-syllabic E when adding a vowel suffix. A vowel suffix is one that the suffix begins with a vowel letter. So in the word pleased, ed is a vowel suffix. That says, go back to your base, please. You see an E at the final position. It is single, there's only one of them. And, well, one of any vowel, it's just a single vowel, E. And then it is also non-syllabic, meaning silent, or it is not making a syllabic sound, for lack of a better word at the moment. So consider the idea that non-syllabic is silent. We're using non-syllabic. So you end up with P-L-E-A-S, replace the E with E-D. You can also replace the E with A-N-T and get pleasant. You can replace the E with U-R-E and get pleasure. You can add a prefix to pleased and get displeased. Pleaser, adding an ER, replaces the E, you get pleaser. And unpleasantly, adding a prefix, two suffixes onto each other, and you get unpleasantly. Then you look at pleasureful. So we had a pleasureful time at the beach today. Not a super common word, but it can be done. You get P-L-E-A-S-E plus U-R-E plus F-U-L. Now sometimes if you're adding another suffix on U-R-E that is a vowel suffix, you might be also replacing the E on that particular morpheme. But in this case, it's adding an F-U-L, and an F is a consonant. So the first letter of the suffix determines if it's a vowel suffix or a consonant suffix. So pleasureful replaces the first E because the U is a vowel. The second E in that morpheme grouping is not replaced because there's a consonant suffix. What are the relatives? Looking at this word please, you look at Aeon Online, you want to find out the earliest attestation of this word. And being attested means it's been found in research, in books, in some written format in history. So if you look there, I've got bolded out that we ended up finding it from Latin, two different forms, although there was history up until this point. You can see the timeline, Old French, before that was Modern French, before that was Latin, and even before that was Proto-Indo-European. That's that PIE, and it has an asterisk because that was a non-written form. So the spelling is estimated based on a bunch of linguistic historical information. It's not a guess. It is very well thought out and a lot of evidence. There are also cognates in other languages that you can see. Looking at the relatives further, once we know the etymology, the history of the word, that's where we can see extended family members. My friend and colleague Pete Bowers of WordWorks Kingston, he always says that this is sort of like attending a family reunion. All the immediate family members, the mom, the dad, and the siblings, sit together on their blanket, which is represented by a matrix like this one, while the cousins, the aunts, and the uncles sit each on their respective blankets, which are sort of represented by words in the oval or perhaps even a separate matrix. They're all related to the same etymon, they just don't share the same spelling. The relationships may be once, twice, or more removed. So you have words in the oval, the green oval, like plea and plead. They're related to please because they're related to the etymon, the Latin one, P-L-A-C-E-R-E or P-L-A-C-A-R-E. Placid and placate and complacency and supple and supplication, those are all related to please. But you really need to be careful because a word like supplement looks a lot like supple and supplication, but it is not related etymologically, so it would not go in this oval. You need to look at the histories to see their connections, but when you look at these words, you know they all have something to do with being satisfied, contented, or agreeable. Okay, so now we're going to look at what graphemes matter in the pronunciation. So, analyze the graphemes. Don't just look at the letters or encode any sounds. Graphemes are so much more than that. They represent phonemes which can be informed by phonology and etymology. So while this slide finishes loading, take a look, if you would please, at the first box with the word please in it. And I'm using the symbol of an I to show you that's what you would see in text. In those carets is what we spell out loud, P-L-E-A-S-E. What you see next to the ear and the mouth are what your ears will hear or your mouth will do in order to pronounce this word. So what we put in those slash brackets is called IPA symbols. International Phonetic Association has an agreed upon symbol system that is worldwide. And while each different language has phonemes, there may or may not have a P, and it may not say pa. But if you put this symbol, the black little one that looks like a P to us, when you put that down, somebody who knows IPA knows to say p. If you put the one in red, they know to say E, even if that's not a phoneme in their language. That's how people can read foreign names and different things like that pretty easily because they know the IPA. It also is extremely helpful in representing our own language within and among ourselves. You can clearly see, if you quickly glance around the whole slide, that you can see a grapheme EA with the E, and you can also see it in pink with the E. And you'll see some other changes happening. You can see what is represented. So if we just look at the first one, please, the P is represented. It's representing the phoneme P. The L is representing the phoneme L. The EA is considered a digraph. It's functioning as a digraph. Those two letters are making one phoneme, the E. So these are called graphemes, but they can function as digraphs as well. The S is representing the phoneme Z, and the E is not representing a phoneme called a zero allophone. It's just zeroed out. It is not there to represent a phoneme. So why is it there? We're going to have to investigate. If you look at the word pleasant to the right, the E has been replaced with the vowel suffix ANT. It has a P and an L again, which are in the same representation there as the first one, but then your EA shifts to the E. You have your S as Z, and your A is represented by a schwa. A schwa is an unstressed syllable. It is represented by vowels. But you don't, if you say this word, you are not saying pleasant, you're saying pleasant. And it's an unstressed, it's just z. It's kind of thrown in there, it's kind of mashed together. I'm certain those are not technical terms, but we all have words that we're writing and we don't hear all the sounds, but we need to understand that we don't write or read by sounds. We write and read for meaning, to make sense of what we're reading and writing, to convey a message. And when our spelling is, when we look at it in terms of morphemes and the meaning that those have, the sounds can shift and it's okay. We're not bothered by that as much because we aren't trying to represent something that has 4 or 5 different things it can do. We're trying to represent a meaningful word that's consistent, P-L-E-A-S-E, with a suffix or an additional prefix or something else added. And you are studying those so much that you're creating orthographic patterns in your mind of a bunch of different suffixes and consistently using them in the same way. It helps students learn how to read and spell better because they're focused on the meaning and connecting that meaning through the spelling. So take a look at pleasure, the last word on this group You'll note some consistencies with the P, the L, and then the EA being A, but then your S is going to shift to a Z. You know, it happens. Pleasure, vision, you have all these words like that. You'll find it if you look at you look for some patterns. You may find the U on the UR, and the maybe the ION will create this Z sound, and there are others that do it as well. So looking for the patterns, but you know with pleasure it's about pleasing something, so you spell it with please and add your URE suffix. Extremely common suffix. The UR is representing and the E again is a zero allophone. It is not representing a phoneme. So we're left with the final question again. If it is not representing a phoneme, what's it doing there? In this slide, you're seeing three representations of the digraph EA. It says E as in please, E as in head. We've seen those two, but it can also say A like in the word great. The varied pronunciations in this word family, please, pleasing, you're hearing the EE, the in pleasure, in pleasantly, and so forth. Those varied pronunciations are able to be represented by the digraph EA, which allows for the variation in phonemes, but it also keeps the spelling consistent within that word family, as opposed to using the digraph double E that only represents one phoneme of E. Look at the green box. Be very, very careful. The reason we like to analyze the graphemes is because sometimes those two are not, although they're next to each other, they may not always be functioning as a digraph. In this case, the E is in the prefix RE, and the A is in the base of ACT to create the word reaction. So why is there a final E on this word? Well, words in English that have a final S often signal plural nouns. The potential final E cancels the word from signaling it as a plural noun. Plea. He will make a plea for dessert. P-L-E-A. Put an S on that and you end up with please. He made 3 pleas for cake. Or you have it and you use it as a verb. He pleads for dessert every day. So the E cancels the confusion with that. I am so pleased the English spelling makes sense. Aren't you? If you have any questions or you want to study further, please contact me at empowerlc.lisa@gmail.com or visit my website, which focuses on dyslexia, resources, tutoring, class offerings in structured word inquiry, and more at www.seethebeautyindyslexia.com. Thank you for watching, and please look out for our next video.